Thank you for the heads up, Satyr. Nah, she's not cute. Furclock, welcome. Flam punked. Yeah, you know, I wish I could. I still can't find my creme brulee torch. I ordered a brand new. My sister brought over some food grade butane. And I can't find where I safely hid my torch. Okay, so the first thing to do is we have iced tea on one, M&M in the other. This package, yeah, I don't like buying prefab anything. This package was about $3.25 US for a whopping £1. I can make for, well, you know, 2 cups of flour and a little bit of elbow grease. Is it worth the extra difference of $2? I don't know, probably not. Actually, totally not. But it's good to know. It's good to know how to make your own dumpling wrappers. Not fry them. These wonton wrappers don't work well when they're boiled, and they tend to fall apart when they're steamed, just because they're so thin. If you make your own wrappers, they're going to be a lot thicker than these, probably thicker. And they won't tear when you boil them or when you steam them. Fortunately, I'm not doing either today, but I will go over how to make the dough. Now, can I? These ones need to stay refrigerated. I saw something about hazelnut. Right. Pick no-name Nutella. Chocolate hazelnut spread. This stuff is surprisingly good, and it will find a home in the Greek donuts that I will be making at least for myself sometime soon. Now, how many wrappers are in here? I'm just going to use half a pack. Let's split this up now. Now that package is fresh. It was, yeah, lucumades. They're little donut balls. They're super, super, super easy to make. The real, oh, thank you so much for the gift sub. Thank you. Is there anything tricky to it? Ideally, you have some Greek honey on hand, but it's like a sweet dough recipe. Traditionally, you just put a drizzle of honey on top, or you make a honey syrup. And for Greek desserts, a honey syrup is normally honey with some citrus, either lemon or orange, occasionally with lemon water. Rose water. A lot of traditionalists swear by the rose water. Personally, I don't care for it. I don't mind it. I just don't really care for it, and I think it's a waste of an ingredient. Otherwise, it's just, you know, cinnamon on top of honey. What are you barfing about now? Oh, the Buckleys. Oh my god, Buckley's is the... Apparently Nouveau does not have an appreciation for Buckley's. What? It's good for you. Tastes like awesome. Lucumades. I think I Discord somewhere a month ago. Buckley's cough syrup tastes great and it works. Is that the slogan? The logo?
Tastes awful and it works.
Oh, tastes awful and it works. Yeah. I actually made something approximating from scratch. It's basically, it tastes a lot like turpentine. It's a very thick cough syrup made with like camphor, cassia, menthol, maybe some eucalyptus in there. It's actually loaded with a lot of traditional Chinese medicines for the respiratory system. I would chew on pine needles when I was walking to and from school and we were way up north. And I actually like the taste of pine needles. I like the smell of turpentine. Call me weird, but that's what I grew up with. So Nouveau, on the other hand, did not have a similar experience growing up, and she apparently is not a fan of the taste of Buckley's. Buckley's cough syrup. Tastes amazing, and it works. What? I heard it was a survival thing that the Aboriginals used to make a broth with pine needles for vitamin C. Started with one. I wasn't a fan of the taste, but I told myself to do it for a while, and then I started liking it. The syrup for the loukoumades is very similar to the syrup for most Greek desserts. Syrup. So it's a simple syrup, but you reduce it down. So it starts off like a simple syrup is typically 1 cup water, 1 cup sugar. Stir it well, bring it to a boil, bring it to a simmer, reduce to half, add your flavoring, boom, you're done. Throw in a curl, a peel, a twist of citrus or bitters like Buckley's. Stick of cinnamon, and Bob's your uncle. Otherwise, the loukoumades, the donut balls themselves, it's like any other donut recipe, but it's better because it's a Greek invention. This is clear evidence that Greeks invented. I wish I could easily dig up the pictures from this computer and share them. Oh, she's totally serious. I too was exposed to a lot of up. There was no taboo in our family about alcohol, and nobody in my family, not my immediate family anyways, ever had a problem with booze. We drank a lot of it with no problem. My dad, I don't think I ever saw him tipsy. I think the most I saw him have was like maybe 3 drinks in a night. After high school, I was the same way. Amy, dig in. I'm just going to make a very, very quick and easy dough. You're not going to miss anything. You'll see the filling in about half an hour, 45 minutes. So let me know when you're back and I will jump into it then. Okay, so since I'm doing half a batch of the dumplings with the commercial wrappers, I am going to towards the bottom of the page, towards the bottom of the recipe. It shows 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, a bit of salt, and a cup of hot water. I'm going to cut that in half. I'm just going to make a very, very simple dough. For about an hour. Preferably 2. You can't let this dough sit for too long. You can wrap it up tightly and it'll be fine for a couple of days, but this will discolor and go bad pretty quickly, actually. Once you either need to use it right away, preserve it somehow, or wrap it in plastic and refrigerate it. In general. So I'm going to throw in a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. It's a 1/4 teaspoon. And I need 1/2 cup of very hot water. I've always wanted to try doing a full night of cooking just using chopsticks instead of everything else. Work faster. I'm trying. Using chopsticks to stir, to do everything except for cut. So I'd use chopsticks, a knife, measuring cups, and I guess bowls and a cutting board. Basically no spoons. No spoons, no ladles. Why? Just 'cause. Now, even though this was a fairly precise measurement, I am going to very likely have to make some adjustments because the flour that I used initially is different than this brand, so I'm going to need an extra little bit of water. But I'm not going to add that water just yet. I'm going to see just how much of the flour I can mix into what I have here. This dough might seem a lot stiffer than you would like. It'll be a lot stiffer than a normal bread dough. Yeah, this definitely needs a bit more hot water. I'm working as fast as I can. Now, if I had a dough hook and a dough mixer and a dough bowl mixing bowl, this would only take about 10 minutes. Doing this by hand, it's going to be closer to 15 to 20. And is it better than using a power tool? No, it's not. Now, I'm not trying to develop a lot of gluten. I will. Well, Amy, all you need to do really is just squish this, and if it seems like the outside is too dry, just rip it apart, expose the fleshy, wet interior just like humans, and just wipe the bowl with it and try to pick up all the flour you can. But the basic technique is I'm just folding it over and pressing it flat. It's actually using my fist. But just like normal dough, right, just pull, fold it back, turn it 90 degrees if you need to, fold it back, and just keep doing this. That's all I'm doing inside the bowl. If you're using two hands, and you should, it's best if you pull the dough apart. And if you can, if you're making bread dough, slap it back. Make sure you get actual motion there, because that helps form gluten a lot faster. So right now this is pretty much done. It doesn't need to be perfect. We're going to knead it again a little bit. But right now we're going to let it rest because it's holding its shape. It doesn't feel too sticky. It doesn't feel dry. We're going to give the dough a chance to rest. If I tried to work with this right now, it would be way too a lot. Even though there isn't a lot of gluten, it would shrink too quickly, and I wouldn't be able to roll out thin wrappers with it. How do you know when it's done? When it looks smooth. Here, let's get rid of some of the glare. When it looks smooth and it's just a little tacky to the touch, basically like a normal bread dough, not the Dutch oven, like the faux sourdough bread, like the no knead stuff. Just like you're kneading a regular pizza dough or bread dough. It should be pliable, it should be soft, it should feel kind of fairly smooth. It doesn't need to be silky smooth and feel like a pillow. That's after you let it rest for an hour. But you should be able to pinch. Here, I'll ruin this again just so you can see. I'm just going to get a bunch of creases in the bottom. Right, so it's kind of falling apart there. If you can pinch everything together and it stays mostly together, if it's still sticky, keep kneading it. There's no problem with kneading it a little bit more. Just keep kneading it to give the flour every opportunity to absorb the moisture, or just expose it to air and let it slowly evaporate. If it's really dry and feels like bad homemade Play-Doh, add a tablespoon of water tops, more like a teaspoon or so, and spend a good 2 or 3 minutes working it in. And don't be afraid to rip it apart to really expose the moisture that's in the middle. Now this is probably going to smell a little weird for anyone that normally makes bread and not traditional unleavened flatbreads, because this smells a lot like wet flour. This doesn't smell like yeast and sugar and honey and whatever else you threw in your dough. This is just flour and water. Go figure, it smells like flour and water, which for a lot of people is not a pleasant smell because you're just not used to it. So I'm just going to keep working this until I can get a nice ball again. You can also press down. You just roll the ball around and it helps smooth out the bottom. Now I've worked this a little too long and it's starting to get dry, like this isn't sticking together. I could add a little bit of water and help this stick together. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to cup and press along the bottom. I'm trying to like pinch, squeeze the bottom together. That's why you see the ball slowly sliding up. And then if I gently press down and roll it around a bit, I'm going to have a much smoother bottom. See, this is nice and smooth like my brain. But, I'm going to throw just a couple of drops of water in here. A little bit of water goes a heck of a long way. It's not making that sexy squishing noise anymore. Okay, this is good enough. I'm just going to cover this with a damp towel. Normally I would spritz this with some oil. My normal dough recipes, I would spritz this with a little bit of nonstick cooking spray, cover the whole thing in cling wrap, but what I'm taking here is just a damp towel and putting this off to the side to rest for about an hour. Raven said, I'm a sexy, swishy sound. Well, thank you, I think. Well, hey, since Amy's back, it sounds like we can get straight into the recipe. Behold the humble food processor. This is not necessary, but it does help a lot. Now there's one thing that I'm going to do, which is, actually I put it in the notes on this version. I'm going to chop up the cabbage first. I'm going to transfer it to a separate bowl. I'm going to slightly season it with some salt and let it sit for a good 10-15 minutes. The salt is going to draw some moisture out. It's going to penetrate deep into the little pieces of cabbage, so it'll be a bit better seasoned. And then I'm going to squeeze all the liquid I can out of it, because I don't want the filling to be too wet. The meat has enough moisture in it that I don't need to add any more from the cabbage. And there's two basic versions of the filling on the stream. The more meaty version, reduce the garlic, onion, and ginger amounts in half. Skip all the cabbage. Add an egg and some cornstarch. The egg is just more bulk protein and gives better mouthfeel, and the cornstarch is just better binding. You're going to have less volume, go figure, but it tastes a lot more meaty. And that filling itself makes a really, really interesting pan-fried Chinese-themed meatball, for lack of a better word. If you have all the veggies in it, it's closer to a very meaty version of it's closer to a version of a good Chinese egg roll minus the sprouts. You get a lot of veg in there. Prevent overstuffing, just use 1 to 1.5 teaspoons per wrapper. I'll get to the filling and the pleating and all that in a bit. Now, because we're using fairly imprecise measurements, close counts, depending on how full you make your dumplings, depending on how big your dumpling wrappers themselves are, depending on all the usual factors, this is going to make anywhere from 20 to 40 dumplings. Make a batch at first, make notes of how many you make. Activate the device. I will, Ivan. Good to see you on. Well, we have some streamers to catch up on. A shout out to, first of all, DJ Nuvo, who's sick like dog. This the stovetop outlet is getting some action. You really like that, eh? So I need about 1.5 cups of finely chopped cabbage. Now, this bowl is approximately exactly 3 cups. 3 cups by volume and by mass. So approximately half this cabbage is 3 cups. So I want about 1.5 cabbages, is about 1.5 cups. When you can picture the volume of a soup bowl, you know what 3 cups looks like. Because I know that this is basically 2 soup bowls. If I stacked a soup bowl on top and underneath, I can imagine that it's about the right shape and size. Anything but metric, right? I know. Now there's a few ways to core out your cabbage. One is to find a hard surface, which would probably be my head in this case, but you want to give this like a really, really, really hard whack to break the core loose. Just like any star that's about to go supernova or something. Or you can just cut the sucker in half and then cut out the core later. Or, if you're truly heroic, you can cut out on an angle the core from this position. Now, personally, I think the safest way is just to take your cabbage and cut it in half. So let's get a cutting board. And here's where a cleaver would be really handy, which I have, but I try to do everything with my chef's knife. Okay, that was easy. Now you can see the heart here. A little bit too much glare. Let's turn these lights off a little bit. I say you, let's turn these lights up a little bit. There we go. So I want to take this section. I remember where it is. I'm just going to cut there. I'm going to cut there. And that's all of the heart. And what's left here is all the nice, consistent, tasty cabbage bits. The core tends to be, or the heart tends to be bitter and really tough. Like, I could try to salvage some of the stuff from the side, but ain't no one got time for that. And I miss the garbage. Compost it is. Well, Ivan's not one to brag, but yeah, enough to satisfy. I'd agree. Oh, you guys. You're so silly. I'm going to give this a good wash. At least a good rinse. Now I want to use about half of this. So this is about my 1.5 cups. This I will save for a salad for myself for later. I really like cabbage. Unfortunately, it's rather expensive around here, which annoys me. I'm sure it's no fan of mine either. Okay, let's go over here. Let's go over here. Yes. I'm going to give this a quick chop. Now, I could shred the cabbage manually. I could do this all myself, but I'm going to use the food processor to do all my mixing. Hopefully this isn't too loud. Ivan Neal with the 28-month sub. Thank you so much. Just shut up. Right, don't forget to set your food processor to cabbage. Excellent. Thank you. We have been binge watching Next Generation, Star Trek. And I am so much more critical as a consumer of media now than I was when it was new. Like, some of the episodes I found problematic, just from story perspective. Nouveau pointed out that the turbo lifts, the carpet from the bridge to the turbo lift is seamless. Like, very, very seamless. so seamless that there's no way that that thing moves up or down. So I'm just going to stir in like a quarter teaspoon of salt or so. Yeah, Tasha, you are. So the reason I'm just adding some salt right now, it's going to help draw some of the moisture out and season the inside of the little teeny bits of cabbage. I'm just going to let this loiter for about 15 minutes. Carpets melt as the doors open. Well, we didn't see that happen. Oh, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
I really appreciate hard science fiction. So, in general, Asimov and Larry Niven.
I think your main fan is frozen.
Jerry Pournelle, am I frozen?
Yeah, some sort of blurry effect going on.
Oh. It looks like my camera might be frozen. Hang on, I'm going to restart it. Don't run away. Is that much better? Oh, I see a spinning cursor of death. Hang on, let's see if this is better. Yeah, that's working. Okay, good. Good. We're back. The Packlets. Which what was that one about again?
Have George to their personal engineer. They were the rather rotund, kind of dumb sounding aliens.
They look for things to make them go.
Yes.
Okay. I appreciate the morality, the moral theme, the quandaries and conundrums. I always appreciated those episodes. But sometimes it seemed very much to me that the entire story was just, hey, what would happen? Wouldn't it be a cool story if we talked about blah, and then let's just shoehorn that into Star Trek universe? Because sometimes it's shoehorned in a little too much without quite enough lube, if you know what I mean, and it ends up just a disaster. I'm just going to trim up my let's count them, 4 cloves of garlic. Okay, we have 1, 2, and that's 2 more, right? Oh, just that they tried to shoehorn in the stories without enough lube. Horrible analogy. And much like most superhero and fantasy with magic, supernatural superhero story movie series, the writers kind of forget what abilities and like personal history the characters have. Which is why I've always felt, firmly believe that when you have a series, each main character should have at least one writer dedicated to that character, just as a final sanity check. So Geordi just doesn't all of a sudden remember, oh yeah, I studied Kumite death matches for years when I was a prisoner on Conan Island. Like out of nowhere, he's like hand to hand. shinobi death guy, right? Just for some consistency. And consistency with the teleporters and the other technology. And yeah, the transporters, don't get me started.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much wrong with them. Now, without nitpicking, is a perfectly fine. It came out, and I didn't give it a whole lot of thought. Phew! Gosh. Yeah, the far. But I really. Jackie, good. I
Getting them?
yeah, I'm getting it. I want to make friends with this person. Yeah. I do have an only. The content is no spicier than my chili peppers. Are we? If the audio is still bad, let me know. I will hard restart this computer. It only takes a minute. It's actually kind of beefy. And I still don't know why this happens. It's completely random. And intermittent connection issues or intermittent tech issues.
Yeah, your main camera's frozen.
Okay. Doopa doopa doo. We're still here. Sorry about the tech issues. I really don't know why that happens. It's the computer is still rebooting. I'm on my main streaming computer. Fortunately, this one hasn't randomly crashed for quite some time. Watch it crash now. Yeah, so I'm gonna let my other computer do a full restart. Oh, it should sound perfect. This is my studio microphone on the DJ/main streaming computer, so I should sound extra sassy. I'm hoping my desktop, my kitchen computer is fully rebooted. I will be right back. Don't run away, and I will let you know in the chat when to restart. Refresh the screen. Okay, everything should be good. Can everyone see me? Okay. Sorry about that. We're going to, thank you, Ivan. So the recipe is over here. We're going to put in half a cup of freshly chopped green onion. 2 onions is about right. Again, onion is not a particularly good unit of measure. So I'm using the old claw. I've got my fingers curved, holding the onion in place. I'm just moving the the knife up and down, far away from my fingertips. What I like to see so much in Hollywood is when people do this. Because I hope it's going to happen, because damn it, they deserve it if they're going to hold their food like this while they're cutting it. Especially when the character is supposed to be like Master Chef or something. When you get towards the end of whatever you're holding, you should be able to still keep a curve on with your knuckles and cut this safely. And then when you get right to the end, just freehand it like this, freestyle. The other way to mince things up, you can hold the tip of your knife in place and just do this. Hey, Maiden. Okay, so this is about half a cup. Just going to throw this into our food processor. The shredded cabbage. Oh, yeah. So that's a great question, actually. Is your knife curved like this one? Because this knife has a slight curve. I prefer a slight bend in things. Also what she said. Right. So what I always do is, from the side, the tip of the knife, and you'll notice as I rock it back, there's full contact with the cutting board along the entire length of the knife. If I just do this, and the blade has a curve on it, I'm not going to cut all the way through. If I had something flat, even this cleaver has a bit of a curve in it. But if I had, typically cleavers have, especially the big Chinese ones and the Urukai blades. Bonus points if you get it. So this knife has a curve on it. Yeah, this is a solid piece of stainless steel. This knife has served me very well. I got it on sale at a wholesaler place for like, I think it was like $8 or $9. It was something ridiculous. And this thing has served me very, very, very well. It's not particularly fancy or high end. I think the normal retail price was like maybe $40, 30, 40. But I keep the blade honed and it works just fine. So this is actually really important. So I'm always happy to stress, it's huge. Why, thank you. So if you just chop straight up and down with a knife with a curve, you're not going to cut all the way through. That's why you'll see me do this. I tend to keep the tip of the knife in place and then I will rock up and down, but I'll always end with the tip of the knife in contact with the board and I'm always pressing down. So whatever is between the knife and the board will always get fully cut through. Yeah. Excellent question though, thank you. We have our minced garlic, our chopped onion. We need some minced ginger. Yeah, so normally what I'll do is I'll just gently push, like I'll feed with my thumb. This takes a bit of a manual dexterity, but you're holding onto your, like your big tube of meat. Go ahead. And I'm just like shoving it in with my thumb.
Yeah.
And I'm just moving the meat along. So you can do that, or you can just hold it in place and just slowly move. Using the palm of your hand, you can slide it forward while you're slowly curling your fingers back to expose more of the meat or whatever you're playing with. Whatever the technique is, try not to move your hand with the knife too much, because this way, like if I start rotating it around, I'm going to make meat or whatever I'm cutting through. So I want to keep it fairly straight without moving this hand too much, unless I'm moving the whole arm over. This is a hand job tutorial, that's right, mate. Okay, so I'm going to grab everything in two hands and give it a firm squeeze. Trust me, I do get paid a lot for the best. And I'm going to try to squeeze whatever moisture I can out of it. I'm going to try to squeeze out every last drop out of this. Keep someone very, very happy customer. Oh yeah, you got a little more for me. Fully squeezed. Totally drained. Utterly spent. I'll do the last little bit on camera so you can see just how much liquid's coming out. So from here, you should be able to get this on screen. You see how much liquid is coming out? It's about a quarter of the volume. Now, is it tasty? Let's find out. Mmm! Cabbage-erific. Salty load, but yeah, it's, I don't mind. I don't mind. I mean, I swallowed, so I obviously love my cabbage, right? All y'all are gonna get me in trouble. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, you've got nothing to do with it.
I've got nothing to do with it. I could not find... I could not find ground pork at my local grocery store, so I got a mix of beef and pork, which is fine. I don't mind the mix of beef and pork. Some of the dumpling recipes you'll see specify chicken and only chicken, and anything other than chicken is wrong. They're wrong. So you get a separate knife. It's going to become contaminated. These meat tubes are usually a good, cost-effective way of getting a good amount of meat into you. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah. £1. I don't think I have to say anything about that. So it's a pound of ground meat. So far we have our 4 cloves of minced garlic. I do have big hands. Our green onion, our minced ginger is coming up, and we're almost done. Almost done. How many cabbages of meat is that? Good question. I had my ginger packed completely in water. So this ginger has been sitting in my fridge for a number of days. Notice the lack of oxidation. As you typically need available oxygen to oxidate things or to oxidize things, and when you fully submerge something, access the oxygen in water. When you want to, I need 3 tablespoons of this, so what I'm going to do is just peel the skin with the side of my spoon. Everyone should spoon, it's good for you. You get all sorts of wonderful hormones released. You just feel better when you spoon. You should have no trouble at all scraping the skin off. My theory, thank you for the follow. Yeah, Mondays and Fridays. I used to stream cooking 3 times a week. I've cut it down to 2. Tuesdays is still music, but I'm going to be transitioning that to gaming. Or I might be doing my music on a DJ Nouveau's channel. Because of the upcoming changes to the Twitch copyright/DJ program, it doesn't make sense for me to enter it. So I'll make sure I don't have any copyrighted music at all, because I am a stickler for the rules. Yeah, so you can peel a ginger very, very well with a spoon. Yeah, Princess Bride. Classic reference. Okay. So to shred my ginger, I'm going to cut it up, and I'm going to go to town with my knife. This bench scraper is very handy for picking up garbage. And if I were extra smart, once you cut into ginger, you've only got a day or 2 before it starts going bad. If you leave it completely submerged in water, you can extend that a lot. The other thing you can do is, I think it's lying around here. I probably should have used that I'm saving for a rainy day. Yeah. So this piece of ginger has been sitting in my fridge for the better part of, I don't know, month and a half. It hasn't really gotten too bad. Like, the top is mushy. It's actually starting to ferment.
No.
It's wrapped in plastic, but this has survived being in the refrigerator by itself. This was just for demonstration. A heck of a lot better.
I think that needs
This is going in the garbage, yeah. This has survived a heck of a lot better than just leaving the exposed ginger out on the counter.
Well, it dries out.
Because if you leave it exposed and it's already cut, it'll dry out. And if it doesn't dry out, it'll get funky in a big hurry.
Oh, please don't, babe.
Yeah, sorry, Maiden, too late. So I'm just going to cut off a couple of discs. You'll see I'm still always using the claw technique. And if you want to be really, really, really smart about it, take the flattest end and have that down on your cutting board. Because this way, I have minimal chance of this sliding around. Oh yeah, well, Therina, that's exactly why I had it submerged in water. This was already cut. Like, I cut this over a week ago. And I had it fully submerged in water. And into the fridge it goes. Now, some of the flavor has leached into the water, just a little bit. But this, oh darn, right? But this ginger is going to be good for a while. The reason I cut this initially was because DJ Nuvo is hurting over there. And last week I invented homemade neocitrin, which tasted a heck of a lot like the real thing. But with extra love. I happen to have some ascorbic acid vinegar powder, something. Yeah, neocitrin's awesome. Let's see what I have. So this says vitamin C powder. Now I know the contents, the ascorbic acid isn't really vitamin C. I won't go into the deep dive as to the difference. Effectively, it's the same thing. I know it's not the same thing. So any of you food Scientologists out there, back off. What trademark? Neocitrin? Oh, right, Neo. Ivan, got it. I see what you did there. All I did was some ginger. I squeezed a lemon, some lemon peel in my teapot, a couple of cups of boiling hot water, let it hang out, stirred in some Greek honey, some of the vitamin C powder, and it tasted just like the real thing. Would that be din that we couldn't say? May, din? I have approximately 3 tablespoons. So do not stack these up like poker chips. Just cut a couple at a time at most. And there's no real point in trying to chop this as quickly as possible. I think that's because you have a copyright. Illuminati confirmed. Just trying to expose what I'm doing here. So that's minced well enough. Gonna do that a few more times. So again, I am just chopping and slowly feeding the tip of the knife to the starting position. Turn everything over. Don't stack things up too high because they'll slide around.
No.
There is, unless you're prepping vegetables for a small army or at least 20 plus people, there is no point in trying to show off your knife technique. You are more likely to cut yourself, and you're probably not getting any action just because you can handle a knife well. Preparing the food and serving a good meal, making fresh croissants in the morning, that'll get you some action. Cutting yourself while you're trying to mince up ginger, that's just a rookie move. In a commercial setting, it's nice when you can go choppity really quickly. Again, if you're prepping veggies, you don't need samurai kitchen skills unless you're in a commercial kitchen where every minute counts and you're doing prep for hundreds of people. Because then the time savings is meaningful. She is nice, but for some reason she hates fun. It even says so in her bio. Oh, one other thing, if you need precision cuts, you can push your knife forward like this, and you get a lot of precision. And if you're cutting something thin and you need infinite control, you just draw the knife back through it. So if the tip of your knife is fairly sharp, you can make surgical, precise quality cuts just by drawing your knife back through it. In general, this up and down, vanilla, very missionary style action is all you need. The Kuka Sutra is only for advanced practitioners of the erotic kitchen arts. And I'm going to copyright that right after the stream. The Kuka Sutra. That's horrible. And I don't mind if there's some larger pieces in the minced up ginger. I don't care if there's something that's like a quarter of an inch long. Those extra little bursts of extra ginger, they'll be nice. It's not going to be super overpowering. And one thing that I typically bring up is a good pretzel has big salt crystals on it, so you get the occasional burst of salt in your mouth. Even though someone promised they wouldn't, you still get it in your mouth, but you don't mind because it's a surprise, and everyone loves surprises. But if the top of that pretzel was evenly salted, it wouldn't be quite as good. So there are all of the other ingredients. Our minced ginger is here. We need some soy sauce, 2 tablespoons. Your mileage may vary. I'm just going to throw in exactly 2 tablespoons. When you've been doing this as long as I have, you can totally eyeball, perfect precision, ultimate precision.
That didn't seem like enough.
That was exactly enough. There was some parallax effect going on because there was motion in the front and the back, and it was just quite the optical illusion.
Sure.
It's 2 tablespoons exactly. Would you throw in a 1 tablespoon of oil, preferably sesame? Woo! This is very toasted sesame oil. Gonna give this a good shake. Fine, I will measure 1 tablespoon, which is 3 teaspoons. 1, 2, 3. In general, never, ever, ever measure stuff directly above your bowl, because if you slip and you pour too much in, you might ruin your recipe, you might ruin your ingredients. 1/8 of a teaspoon of cayenne, loud cabinet closing. Big pinch of cayenne pepper. One big pinch. And that's everything. Here's what the Foodatron currently looks like. I'm going to just make sure everything is able to move down, and then this is contaminated. I will keep it off to the side. It is now well mixed. So here's our pate. It is a parte of parte. That doesn't work, does it? Meat paste, I know, right? Yummy, yummy meat paste. I'm going to remove the blade without cutting myself, hopefully. I decided. Okay. You know what I really don't like is when recipes will say salt and pepper to taste. Does that mean I'm supposed to taste this right now? There's only a few places on the planet where I would trust eating freshly ground raw beef. This isn't one of them. Smells very Asian. Does this? Yeah, Elmer, maybe. Oh, that kind of paste. I thought you meant the horse meat. I've taken a leftover filling, just made little patties, pan fried them. They're really good on their own. Very Asian themed pan fried meatballs. Okay, if you want this to seem a lot beefier, a lot meatier, again, you cut all of the veg, you remove the cabbage completely, you cut all the other veg in half, and then actually my stovetop's kind of dirty. I have some top shelf kitchen fairies that keep the place pretty spotless. Cleaning up a bit as you go makes a huge difference. And cooking should never be stressful. It shouldn't be... if you have your ingredients lined up when you start, or if you know exactly where everything is, or if you're totally fine winging everything, basically if it's casual and chill, and you can make it casual and chill just by pre-measuring all of your ingredients in order, have them in front of you, left to right on your countertop. Mise en place, everything in its place. And that's the difference between a cook and a master chef. I poop you not, pre-measure everything and have it lined up. That's the only difference. Maiden has learned nothing from this stream. Shush. You don't need to run around and scramble and find a pinch of this, that, the other to bounce off your elbow, Salt Bae style. I'm not saying it's going to be enjoyable. I'm saying it doesn't need to be stressful. But it's best if you enjoy it. Kind of like sex, right? As far as you're keeping your counter clean, one of these bench scrapers, it's invaluable. Completely invaluable. Because as you go along, you can just quickly scrape off any garbage that's on your countertop, so your work surface is always clean. It's not disinfected, it's not completely sanitary, but it's free of garbage. The next pro tip is to, just the tip. The next pro tip is to either have a garbage can right beside your work area, or have a bowl on your very, very nearby, preferably right in front of you, where all your scraps go. Because that minimizes the time from here to scoop things up and then look for your garbage can. I use this for a lot. I use this for dividing dough. There's rulers on here. It's quite sharp. Like I've cut myself on this. This is quite sharp. It's good for scraping down the counter. It's good for cutting balls of dough or sections of dough. It's just really handy. It's really handy. You should also have flexible bowl scrapers like these that come in very fun sex toy colors, like this one. It's slightly flexible. And use this to scrape down the side of bowls every so often whenever you're making a dough, because you're going to prevent parts of dough from becoming hard and crusty and stuck to the side of the bowl. You can scrape down the side of your bowl with your spatula. You can use your dough ball itself and try to pick up the clumps from around the bowl, but using a scraper is if the dough that's stuck to the side of your bowl starts to get a little hard and crusty, scraper is the only way to go. And I'm gonna hydrate. Okay, I'm just going to leave this where it is. I don't need my knife. I'll keep it handy. I might need to cut the dough. Okay. So there's some junk. That's an actual cut in my countertop. So's that. So's that. Countertop is now pretty darn spotless. Takes a couple of seconds. Again, it's not sterilized, it's not sanitized, but it's perfectly fine for what I'm doing because raw meat did not touch the surface. Trauma Train Rich. Good to see you. So here's the ball of dough. It's a lot stickier on the bottom, but the top is still pliable. It's actually nice and soft. So I'm going to just knead this up, and you can see that it's not ripping apart, and it is pretty soft, and it springs up pretty quickly enough. If I don't go in too deep, it'll come back to shape. If I go in too far, too hard, with too many fingers, it takes a while to recover. Why do you do this to me? You bring out the absolute worst in me. That's also what she said. Okay. What I'm going to do is roll this out to a log about an inch in diameter. And then I'm going to chop this up into roughly 1 inch long chunks. So this is going to be around half an ounce, something between 12 and 15 grams. As long as they're fairly consistent, and then I'm going to roll them out to be, I don't know, like roughly this size. What is that, like 6 inches? 3? I don't know. Does this even say? Well, it's about 3 inches. Yeah, Maiden, I wish I knew what 6 inches was. Good Lord. I'd totally be in porn if it was. 3 1/4 diameter? No, this is that what it says on here? I don't think it says on here. I mean, I could go get a tape measure and find out. Let's go do that. Why is my tape measure beside my bed? That's a great question. So this is whoa. That's like 3.5-inch diameter. So half of 7 inches. Wow. It's between it's around 3.5 average. Still. Geez, 3.5-inch diameter. That's going to leave a mark. Perfect. We can do some Jackbox after I make a batch or two of this if people want. Okay, so I'm going to take this, I'm going to cut it in about half. Just going to leave this in the bowl over off to the side. Covered with the old damp towel. I need to get some flour on the work surface. A bit on my rolling pin. Not a whole lot. Oh, I got all sorts of voodoo teas that Nuvo will not drink. Actually, I'm out of the mountain tea from my parents' village. With my cousin is he always swears that he has like bags of the stuff at his place. Okay, so all I'm doing is just rolling this out. So this is about 1 inch diameter. So I'm going to chop these every inch or so. Close counts. What you want is these sections to start off as roughly spheres, and with just a little bit of pressure, we're going to roll it out. This one did not start off as spherical as I'd like. Just a little bit of pressure, and we're going to roll these out to be at least 3 inches across. Make sure your rolling pin is floured. Don't worry about these things becoming overly floured, but don't press down too hard. It's going to take a little bit of time to roll this out to the right size. There. And these should not spring back too quickly. If they spring back right away, let them rest. Let the dough just reassemble the dough and let it hang out. Keep it under a moist towel. And I'm just going to roll out a couple of these. And then I will get the frying pan ready, start filling these up, filling them, and then we're done. Minus the sauces. I'm not pressing down. I can't stress this enough. I'm just putting a little bit of pressure. And I definitely do not want anything to stick to my piece of something. Ouch. I don't want anything sticking to my rolling pin or my wrappers. This really doesn't take all that long. It's even better when you have two people doing it because you can like hang out. If it turns out that things start sticking to your rolling pin or your work surface, just get a bit more flour on it. Like I'm going to after this one. Okay, this one's a little bit of a monstrosity, which is good because I'm going to show you how to fix these things. So it's not perfectly round. That's fine. I'm going to get a bit of flour on here. Seems somewhat familiar. Okay, again, if your balls start off as fairly spherical, just a little bit of pressure. Just roll it out a couple of times, and you can see right away it's pretty darn round. Just a little bit of pressure. Turn it 90 degrees. Bit of pressure. Flip it over. Guys like pressure applied to their balls. Yeah, I think that's exactly what I said. Okay, roughly circular, roughly 3-inch diameter. Like this was coming apart in the middle. I can put a little drop of water in there. There's no aliens today, and I don't think I'm setting anything on fire today. Soon. I made French toast on Wednesday, and then sometime on Thursday. I chopped up some banana and dipped it into that caramel syrup that I made for the French toast. It was really, really, really good, and I was tempted to take a picture of setting some of it on fire, but I think it was a rookie move that I didn't. Again, just a little bit of pressure. So we're forming a bit of an oval here. Turning it 90 degrees, a little bit of pressure. Looking a lot more circular. Flipping it over. Just a bit of pressure. It's an oval. Turn it 90 degrees. And repeat that process 1 or 2 times. A little more pressure each time until we get our 3-inch diameter discs. Like so. There's 2 more to go, and then I'm going to start preheating my oil. We'll start filling these, frying 1 batch or 2 batch. There's 2 main ways to pan fry your dumplings. One is you fry your dumplings on one side till they're like a dark golden brown, like shade or 2 darker than this. Flip it over, fry the other side till it's that color, and then you're done. Boom. Serve. The other method, which I actually prefer, is you put the dumplings into a pan of hot oil and you cook till the bottom turns a light golden brown, closer to the color of this wood. And then here's the secret. You throw in a 1/4 cup of water, you throw a lid on top of the pan, and you let it cook for 6 or 7 minutes until all that water has boiled off. You remove the lid and you let it continue cooking till all of the water is gone, the pan is dry, and the bottoms of the dumplings are crispy and a dark golden brown. They're perfectly cooked, steamed and soft on top, crispy on the bottom. If you want them crispy all the way through, deep fry them. And you deep fry these suckers at about 320 to 340 on the Fahrenheit scale, whatever that is in Celsius, also known as real units. No, this is just flour, salt, and water. That's all that goes into the wrappers. Like even the commercial ones that I'm also going to use, the ingredients in those are wheat flour, cultured wheat flour, water, tapioca starch. Contains wheat. I should hope so. May contain eggs. Some recipes for the dumplings wrappers involve cornstarch. One of the biggest reasons why Chinese baking uses a lot of cornstarch is for the color. That's how you get those super white, very fluffy barbecue steamed pork buns. That's why they're so white, because they're at least half cornstarch. See, you come for the innuendo, but you stay for the trivia. Okay, so I've just been eyeballing these, and minus the monstrosity, these are all pretty close to exactly the same. I mean, this one's a little different. This one should be a bit bigger. Also, what she said. Got one more to do. Just a little pressure, and again, the more, at least round this starts off, preferably spherical, but the rounder this starts off, the easier it is to form a very uniform disc. And I'm just being lazy by not foraging for some more flour. I'm sure I have enough on the counter here somewhere. There. If anyone has... no, dive in. As long as it's reasonably tasteful, like as long as it's not super vulgar, everyone's fine. Like if it's real innuendo, even if it's pretty damn overt, it's good. Okay, so I have my stack of roughly 3-inch discs. I have my little failed attempt here. Unwrap these ones, and then I need to go to the little chef's room. Don't worry, I'm going to wash my hands. I wash my hands like 30 times a day, maybe more. Mine are a little thicker, and these ones will hold up a lot better to being boiled or steamed. But as far as pan frying or deep frying, the commercially, the pre-made ones, there's nothing wrong with them. And for the price versus the time, I enjoy doing this stuff, and it's a good skill for people to learn. But, I mean, really, just buy the commercial stuff. Ba-doo, doo-ba-doo, ba-doo. Sorry. So that looks like weird things are going to happen. Okay. Frying pan. Let's get that started. I'm going to use a non-stick pan. I have to find a lid that fits fairly well on it. That fits perfectly on it. I recommend against using cast iron or stainless steel. Stainless steel or carbon steel work fine if you know how to preheat your pan and how to oil it after it's preheated, and you can keep track of the perfect condition for the oil to fry things. If you can't do all of those, you're likely going to have something sticking to the bottom of your pan. The pans also have to be spotless. So for all of those reasons, just use a non-stick pan. Flour on the jacket is also why bakers don't wear black. Two, four, 5, 6, 7. I want to count how many there are in this package. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Some of these are stuck together. Yikes. Uh-oh. Don't mind me, I'm just peeling these apart like the thin pieces of prosciutto. Prosciutto. I'm going to put these in a zippy bag, and I am going to dampen something in there so these don't dry up. And I volunteer this external wrapper. Then I'm going to put a piece of plastic, parchment paper right underneath it so it doesn't stick. To its friends. So I want some moisture in the bag. So I'm doing this. Taking all the commercial wrappers, putting them into this zippy bag so I can seal in the moisture. Otherwise, these are going to dry out. So I don't think I'm going to use them all today. I'm going to make 2 batches with each type of wrapper. Yes. First things first, I need some water. This water I'm going to use to seal around the edge. Some of your dumpling wrappers, or you'll find egg roll wrappers, and that's all you have access to, and those tend to be, sometimes they're rectangular or square. That's fine. What I would recommend you do if you do get a square is just work out where you're going to fold it in half, drop your meat roughly in the middle, fold it over, sort of squish the meat so it's a little more spread out, and then just wet the inside, stick it together. Just make a square version of these round ones. You can fold it on the angle and make a triangle. You can do all sorts of fancy things. So we're on medium-high heat. I'm going to put in about 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. In a steel pan, or cast iron, or carbon steel, you'd want to heat the pan up first and then add the oil, and then as soon as the oil comes up to temperature, dump everything in. With cast iron, or with stainless, with non-stick, just heat everything up at the same time. Okay, first of the dumplings. We have, I'm going to turn on my fan over here. You want anywhere from 1 teaspoon to half a tablespoon, also known as 1.5 teaspoons. So this teaspoon is a little heaping. I've got about 1.5 teaspoons, also known as half a tablespoon. I'm actually going to trim this off a little bit. There we go. So I'm going to take a little bit of water, just get my finger a little wet, that's all I need. And now the edge here is going to be really sticky. So I'm going to fold this over and just pinch it right in the middle. And from here, there's a few ways that we can do the pleats. We can go all sorts of fancy. And what we're doing here, I'm just going to put a little more water on the side. What we're doing here is just taking the whole edge, folding it over. So you pull and fold back, pull and fold back, pull and fold back. So this is more of the traditional style. I haven't made these for ages. They're not going to be super pretty, but it's really not hard to do. You also don't need to do this. It's a way you can do just as easily. Right? It's wet along the bottom. Sorry about that. I had to turn my fan on. There was something on my element. Just a little bit of meat there, and this one I'm just going to fold over. I'm going to press down on the meat part and push the air out, form something that looks a lot like a pierogi. And like the greatest band ever, I'm going to dock these, like docking. See if I can do this on the camera outside. Like these little mini empanada looking Chinese dumplings. These look perfectly fine. Like no one's going to complain about being served one of these. Well, they better not. The other way is you just pinch it with your fingers. And that's it. Let's get some of the commercial ones here. You can see what I'm doing here, right? I think my oil might be getting a little too hot. Okay, so again, I'm just going to fold this over. I'm pinching it right in the middle. I'm holding it in the middle with my non-dominant hand. I'm just taking the edge, pulling it, and pushing it back in to make these little pleats. And if you do that too hard, you'll rip it like I did there. Yeah, these don't like being fondled like that. Wow. Guess they need a lot more foreplay. Good enough. Yeah, my oil is nuclear hot. I'm going to do one more. So these little wrappers are at most half a teaspoon of filling. Since mine are bigger than the ones made in China, oh my God, I'm going to hell. I can put more filling and get more filling out of that. Okay, so all I'm doing is putting these in my oil. It's going to get camera nice and close. This was just generic, boring, crap quality vegetable oil. If you can afford it, peanut oil is in general the best to fry with. Do not fry with olive oil unless you know what you're doing. In general, extra virgin olive oil you should never cook with. It exists for shooters, for salad dressings, as a finishing oil. Like the bottoms of these are already turning brown, right? So I think the oil might have been a little too hot. We don't want to overcrowd these. So the first method is with the water, and what I'm going to do is pour a quarter cup of water into this boiling hot oil, which I know is dangerous. I've got my shield, my lid ready. And in about 5 minutes, I'm going to take the lid off and take a look to see how much of the water is left. I'm going to remove the lid after somewhere around there, between 5 and 7 minutes. I'm going to remove the lid and cook off all the moisture. And once all the moisture is gone, the bottoms should be a nice dark golden brown, and then they're cooked to perfection. Mademoiselle Nuva, what sauce do you want? Do you want the stuff that I did for the lumpias, or do you want peanut Thai sauce? Peanut butter, okay. Oh my God, MCV, so sorry to hear that. This is a great reason to have a clear lid, because I'm always a little concerned that they might be burning, they might be sticking, they might be on fire, who knows. In the meantime, my fresh jar of peanut butter is fully separated. I'll show you what this looks like. See all that oil at the top? I need to mix that up. And I've found the easiest way to mix up your all-natural peanut butter is with a little thing I like to call a hand mixer. I just set up one of the beaters, I hold on tight to the jar, and I slowly mix it all up. It's been cooking for 2 minutes, I got lots of time. If you don't have really good hand strength, what I recommend you do actually is take the lid off of one of your jars of peanut butter, get somebody to drill a hole in it so you can feed your beater through it. And then you have like a guide that you can screw on the top of your jar of peanut butter, screw the lid on, and then just turn on your hand mixer to full blast without making a gigantic mess. Like really get somebody to drill a hole and then feed the bottom of the mixer beater through there. And then screw the lid on your jar of peanut butter if you don't have good hand strength. You only have to make a gigantic mess and spray your goo everywhere once before people think you're a legend, and you need to control yourself better. Just saying. Okay. Did I miss something funny in the chat? Okay, so after hitting this with the hand mixer, this is nice and perfectly smooth. We've been cooking this for 4 minutes. Let's take a peek. The commercial ones, when they're steamed, they will start turning they'll start turning transparent. So this one, let's see if I can get a grip of this one. You can see this one is turning pretty damn transparent. The bottom is mostly done on this, so I'm just going to take these out. These thicker ones I'm just going to flip over on the other side. I know it's cooked, but I'm still going to flip it over on the other side. Like, can you see how translucent that is? I'm going to let that cook for just a minute. It's just thinner. Like, when you're rolling out pizza dough, you should be able to see through it. That's why the dudes and dudettes in pizzerias, they toss the pizza while they're spinning it to help stretch it out, because when it lands, you should be able to see your fingers, like most of the color, through the dough. If you can't, it's not ready. Okay. So here are a few different we have the traditional one with the traditional pleats. This was the commercial one. Here's my version of it. Crispy on both sides, burning my fingers. This one is nice and steamed. The filling actually bubbled up. Bottom's nice and crispy. My bigger ones fried on both sides. Nice and golden brown. So what I'm going to do next is make a sauce, and then I think we're going to play some games or something. So I'm basically done in the kitchen for now. Nouveau gets to partake of all of this. I will suffer like a pleb. I prefer the homemade one. The homemade one is more flexible, and you can steam it without it falling apart, and you can boil it without it falling apart. So peanut butter can soak up a surprising amount of liquid. In here I have 1 part soy sauce, 1 part Worcestershire sauce, just for that authentic coastal Thai vibe. If I wanted more authentic coastal Thai vibe, I'd be adding some lemongrass. If you use all natural peanut butter, highly recommend, once you stir things together, highly recommend that you keep your peanut butter in the fridge because it's going to separate on you again. Okay, just a dash of sesame oil. For myself, I would add some rice vinegar. I'm going to skip it for Nouveau. I'm going to put in just a tiny bit of sugar. I think a recipe very similar to this is on the season 1, episode 14. Just gonna put a few drops of chili oil in here. A little goes a long way. And not what she said. And some very hot water coming up. You can mix typically 1-to-1 liquid to peanut butter and still have a sauce. So I put in equal part of peanut butter to hot water, not including the other liquid. And within a minute or two of mixing, this is going to be a natural sauce that will stick to the dumplings. See, we're almost there. This isn't peanut butter soup. I can keep mixing it, and it's just going to get thicker and thicker. In the keto cooking world, it's surprising how much liquid almond flour can absorb, but what's even more surprising is coconut flour can absorb twice as much. And it doesn't really seem intuitively obvious that an almond could soak up its own volume of water just because it's been pulverized. Okay, so here is the sauce. You can see how thick that is, right? My theory, that's sweet. Thank you. Well, the whole there's like three main points on my stream. I started this because I wanted to help broke ass college gamers save their money from ordering Uber Eats and like bullshit takeout delivery food service and cook on a budget at home. We eat like royalty on a really tight food budget. Like people, my friends in real life say there's no way you can live on what you do. I show them the grocery bills, I show them the streams, and they're like, I don't get it. So just helping people learn, especially younger folks, because where do younger people learn how to cook? They probably don't have a stay-at-home parent. They're not learning it in school unless they go into a culinary arts program. They're either going to watch it from Gordon Ramsay calling people donkeys on like Hell's Kitchen clips, or they might have heard somewhere that they're going to get laid if they know how to cook, which is true. So it's a life skill that people just aren't learning anywhere. You can save a ton of money. You totally get laid. And does anything else matter? Today was the celebration of learning. I couldn't drive to the event. My neck was too bad and I couldn't shoulder check, so I had to bow out. Plus, I'm kind of sick, so I didn't want to be around the kids. It is pretty cool. Today we gave away half a Lambo worth of scholarships. And yeah, the organization is it's really solid. I've been the chair of the board of directors for, I don't know, 5 years now. And for some reason, they keep holding special elections to keep me on for another 2 years. My tenure was over a couple of years ago. I'm not supposed to be there past 7. Excuse me, but they, the rest of the board really wanted to keep me around, which is flattering, but there's a reason why we have term limits. Like, I don't want to turn it into the Vlachos show. I don't want it to be all about me. Even if the next board chair isn't as effective as I am, it's still better than keeping me around in the long run. But it's really flattering. It's really flattering. I'm pretty sure they want to keep me around for another 2 years, which I'll accept, and that'll be it. But before I step away from being the board chair, I want to secure enough funding so we're giving away a full Lambo worth of scholarships every year. Because half a Lambo just isn't enough. It's got to be a full Lambo. And I'm pretty sure I can make that happen. Okay, so I'm going to plate this up for Nuvo. This is a good contrast. And I guess I can just use the existing plate. Don't need to dirty another one. What's remarkable is the kids that are in the program, a lot of them are actual refugees. They came to Canada not speaking English. And they are Lambo like Lamborghini, yeah. Like we're giving away 120 grand this year. I want to double it. I want it to be at least $250,000 a year in scholarships. Well, Canadian, but still, you can get like a cheap Lambo for $250,000. One of those ghetto Lambos. Lambo like Lamborghini. It's the best unit of measure. And it's Italian, therefore metric, right, Ivan? I'm going to go take this plate over to DJ Nuvo now that it's cooled down a bit. We can hear the taste test, and then I think we're going to move to some games. Yeah. She gave it a squeaky yum. I'm going to cover this before it gets too cold. Or warm, as the case might be. During my 14-year stay at the U of M, doing multiple degrees, I ended up being in charge of the computer science TAs. Like I was the main lab dude. And yes, she is on her way to Flavortown. And the math department would occasionally grab me to fill in. And I had a couple of props that would occasionally throw me their notes and say, hey, go on my lecture. Fridge. And there's always room for Bridgeo. There we go. I was always tempted to pursue a PhD either in computer science or mathematics. Life got in the way of that. And I kind of miss it. And then when I was in my corporate life, I was at a call center doing mostly work for Comcast. And I ended up in the training program, sort of. The core trainers hated me because I had these revolutionary, crazy ideas like, wouldn't it be good if the trainers could actually take a call? If the trainers could actually put on a headset, plug into the nearest phone, and answer the phone and take a call live? Wouldn't that be an amazing thing to demonstrate? How to actually take a call? And all I was asking them for was, every Friday, every other Friday, just put on a headset for 3 hours so you know how to teach the program. Because Comcast's policies changed. It was like the Wild West. This is like, almost 20 years ago. The different regions had different rules. There were different promotions. There were different everything. The process for troubleshooting, because of the tools and the way the network was set up, you had to pay attention to all the changes. The training material was always at least 3 months out of date. And as a manager, the biggest complaint that I heard from new people on the production floor was the training was great, but it didn't teach me how to take a call because none of this was reviewed in the classroom. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair feedback. Yeah, Nuvo's totally lacking taste buds right now, but she says it tastes good, sort of. So I guess mission accomplished. This ball of dough is this is nice and pillowy soft now. Like it's going to spring back a little better than before. But there's no leavening agent, there's no baking powder or baking soda yeast to make it pop back. It's popping back just because of the gluten structure itself. There's like an elastic structure that wants to sort of spring back. And the homemade's better than the store-bought, eh? I'm not surprised, and thank you. Stuff that's commercially made that's not boutique expensive is going to be made with the cheapest possible ingredients. And that's just the way it is. That's just part of modern life. That's part of global economy. That's part of all the bad stuff that comes with, trying to be the cheapest product on the block. So people buy it. Again, the store-bought stuff is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not good. It's fine. It's not good. Is there anything wrong with not being good, just being okay? That's personal preference. So I'm going to tuck this, I'm just going to leave this here. Yeah. So my partner in crime, the Debreville one, and Little Tex. Debreville was, he and I were very, very similar. We got along famously, shockingly enough. Usually when two dudes are really similar, they're either at each other's throats or they get along like bros. And Chris and I were like bro. We had fierce competition. It was fierce. But we had like huge admiration and respect for each other, and we got along famously. He spent a couple of years in Thailand. I didn't know this. Chris is super white. So when we were in Edmonton, we went to a Thai restaurant, and he asked the Asian-looking waitress for the special and other stuff in Thai. So she starts replying and stops and looks at him, and she was just shocked. Like she did the double take, and she starts replying in Thai. She's like, wait a second, he's white. It was so adorable. He was very fluent too. It was impressive. It was very impressive. And after going to a lot of Thai restaurants with Chris, just because it was hilarious, like me speaking European languages, it's no big deal. But the very white dude speaking the very Asian language, always, it just seems a lot more rare. So we went to a lot of Thai restaurants, and I saw there was a common theme. Peanut butter abound. Peanut butter was everywhere. But I did like the coastal recipes because the closer you lived to the coast, the more meat was involved and the less veg, which is good. Yeah, so I did a fair bit of education side work at the university. I was involved with training or opening call centers and the training for it for about a year and a half for Comcast. And then when I moved to my next corporate job, I was in charge of rolling out technology to all the employees. So, and I was dealing with technology and tradesmen. And some tradesmen are real tech heads, and some of them, they just hate technology. Absolutely hate it. Very resistant to change. So that was quite the challenge. So I do have some experience with teaching, and it's something that I think I'm good at, is taking something that doesn't need to be complex and just breaking it down to its essential components and having different ways of showing the same thing. I often bring up a story of us tutoring this girl from my old high school. She was failing her grade 11 math, and in the summer I was tutoring her so she could get her university entrance under control. Otherwise she was going to have to reconsider her life choices and plans. And it literally came down to me looking through her mom's fridge, finding a pie, cutting up the pie in front of her to explain fractions. And like 5 minutes later, the light bulbs went off, and she's like, oh my God, I get it. I never understood it till now. And the next year in her university entrance math, she got like a 90-something. She was an A+ student. She was bright. She just needed something explained a little differently than what she was used to. First, she missed some days because she was a bad girl. She was hot. Anyways, on that wonderful note, I'm going to change computers. If you have any requests for the rest of the month, Friday is my Chinese-ish theme day. I did my mango, was it last week or the week before? It was last week. Because I inherited some fresh mangoes straight from India. And they were frickin' delicious, but I needed like 4 times as many to do what I wanted to do. The mango ice cream was spectacular. The mango pudding was pretty darn good. I just wish I could have made more. I am going to do barbecue pork. Like the stuff you'll see hanging in your like authentic Chinese market butcher. The stuff that's super duper duper red. And I'll show you how to do that in your oven without any gadgets. Oh, the other thing I do here, it's all basic ingredients, no gadgets, no fancy techniques. There's almost nothing that I can't cook and stick to those principles. Like a hand mixer is most of all I need for something resembling a gadget. I will use my immersion blender, my stick blender, if I'm making a mayonnaise or something like it. I can do it with a blender. I can do it by hand using a whisk. I've got the power tool, I'm going to use it. You don't need to run out and buy it. Hand mixer is the ultimate gadget, yeah, pretty much. And I don't do it just to be difficult or to punish myself. It's not like self-flagellation. I don't own a whole lot of gadgets, and just for demonstration purposes, you really don't need them. If you have it, great. If you don't run out and buy it. That's the point. Anywho, I'm going to change rooms, and I'm going to hit the spam button. One question that's asked occasionally is, oh my God, send me some. Well, I can give you the next best thing. If you plan on ever being in the greater metropolitan Winnipeg area and want to hang out, let me stuff your face with my meat, with some sort of food. Either or. If you want to guest cook with or without me in the kitchen, guest DJ with or without me over in the DJ area, all you need to do is send a self-addressed stamped envelope to this guy, care of here. I'll hook you up. MCV, I still haven't received that self-addressed stamped envelope. Clock's ticking, my friend. Clock's ticking.